Harmy, I couldn't help thinking that the easier of the two phone calls made this week was from Rob Key to Luke Wright saying, "Hi Luke, we need you to call Jonny with the news."
Yeah, yeah. I don't think he'll be getting too much pushback off Moeen or Chris Jordan or even Rian Ahmed, but the Jonny Bairstow conversation would have been a difficult one. I actually think that not so much should have been held like what Jimmy Anderson was held, because I think he's another level again. I think that conversation probably should have been done in person, probably should have been done in face to face at Scarborough, and explain to him why, as Luke says, the door's not closed. I think it's. I don't think the locks. I don't think so I think the keys have jangled, but I don't think they've turned the lock just quite yet on the ones they've left out. Which is, look at Jonny's career. He's been a phenomenal cricketer for England. For me, the best multi-format cricketer that England have ever produced. Because everything he's done is in all formats. He's won big games with the red ball, big games with the white ball. He's batted from 3 to 7. I mean, he's kept wicket on one leg. If it's a phone call, I'd be disappointed. I think that should have been done face to face, because I think it is the end for Jonny. I don't see England, revisiting that. I look at this team; it's a very exciting group, man. I mean, I look at that middle order and I think, you know what, some young lads in there who could potentially take England forward in the rebuild for the next, 3, 5, 7 years. So, if it is the end for Jonny, and I hope it's not, because we all love, and he always likes to kick back. I suspect that the Jonny Bairstow with England now is that race is running. He's a franchise cricketer. He will fight back.
All right, Harmy, let's let the listeners and viewers make their own minds up. They can make what they will from the tone of Luke Wright's voice when he was discussing these difficult decisions.
Obviously, they're disappointed to miss out, but I certainly won't be saying that's the end of them. That's for sure. It's one of those things. Right now, we want to go in a different direction and give some other guys the opportunity. But it was seen before. Obviously, it's not the first time Chris Jordan's been left out. He was out for the last winter, and then still ended up going to the World Cup. So I certainly won't be saying that's the end for them. They're all fine cricketers, but right now we just wanted to give some other opportunities.
And how did Jonny take the news?
Well, just as you imagine, Jonny take the news. One of Jonny's great strengths is how much he wants to play, and he's desperate in his self-belief. So yeah, Jonny's hugely disappointed, but I'm sure he'll fight his way back. And certainly, this isn't, when we spoke to him, that he's done. We just want him back to, as we all know, he was one of the best players in the world. Obviously had that horrific injury, and that's been the messaging. Can we get you back to where you were pre-injury? And I think that's, he understands that. He doesn't like it, and as you guys know in the press, one thing Jonny will do is fight back, and I hope he does and gets himself back in the team.
That's Luke Wright, England selector, to my mind, sounding perhaps a little bit rattled. I don't think that was a very easy conversation that he had, and rather him than well, I mean, he signed up for the job, so that's all part of it. Do you know what excites me, Harmy, is we spoke to Ajit Dale a couple of weeks ago about the excellent job that the England Lions are doing now that that there really are a proper feeder system into the England team or into various England squads. I think the under-19 system is similarly successful, and there are more and more England under-19 players who are making successful careers in first-class cricket, and that wasn't always the case. I mean, more often than not, England under-19 cricketers would become greengrocers and candlestick makers, and but so Dan Mosley and Jacob Bethell, the Warwickshire pair, both England under 19 players, and amongst a series, 20 and 23. Josh Hull is only 20. Nice to see John Turner given another go after a couple of false starts for England. So it's would you say it's wholesale changes? I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a drawing the line in the sand of one or two who have been brilliant for English cricket. I think it's been a line in the sand for mid part players who have been brilliant tourists, who have filled in when red ball and white balls crossed over. I think when I look at this group, I'm really, really excited. Now, come back to what I said about Jonny. You look at England's top 4 in the T20, and you look at Buttler, Salt, Jacks, Cox. That looks very, very good going forward. 2 established, 2 unknown, but the little bits of the unknown of Jacks and Cox, that excites me. It's a big series for Liam Livingstone. And you know what? If I was Jonny Bairstow, I'd be looking at it and going, what on earth has Liam Livingstone done over me? And I think he would have a fair argument, and I think there might be a few people look at that. And I've said many times in the last 2 years that it's probably now or never for Liam Livingstone, and he still gets to go. And I say that with all due respect, because I think Liam Livingstone's a wonderful cricketer. I think he is, but his numbers haven't stacked up. And I think now, with a few younger players in there, it's important that he seizes the moment as a senior player. So I think you look at that 5 and you throw in, Bethel, Moseley, Curran. That starts to excite me as a batting unit that, especially in T20 cricket, could go and challenge the world. Now they've got to be given time. They're going to get a stern test against Australia. But you're right. I think the Lions and the under-19s. I look at the under-19s leader in Michael Yardy, somebody who went through a hell of a lot. Played obviously one-day cricket for England. Was hugely successful in that Sussex group that was built through Chris Adams and the 2 Pakistan overseas players. And Mushy was a big influence. I've toured a few times with Yards. And I know he had some struggles overseas. I mean, I'm not sort of breaking any confidence here, because he spoke openly about these mental health struggles. And I was there right at the very start. He was in a Champions Trophy. So when somebody's gone through things like that, as an under-19 coach, the empathy you have with young individuals who are touring, who are trying to make a way in the world, you have to have a leader who has great skills and qualities. And I mean, he could be the best coach in the world. You don't want him to go with the national team full stop at the highest level. Some of these coaches are better suited at the lower level, because the way they coach, the way they are as people, the way they manage groups, the way they manage individuals that understand the outside pressures of being in an environment like the under-19s, where you are told you are one of the best players in the country, but you're actually nowhere near the finished article or the person that we want you to be if you're at your county moving forward to try and get into first-class cricket, into future international honours, because that has a detrimental effect as well. So many times I've seen an under-19 player leave Durham's dressing room who couldn't get a game for Durham's second team, walks in 3 weeks later with an England 19 tracksuit on, thinks he's played Test cricket. And you're going, he is going to be the greengrocer in 2 years' time. So I think the people who are at that level, who are managing that level, who've done a brilliant job, and keep that going. Lions the same. It was always going to be the Lions was always going to improve cricketers once COVID and out COVID, because I think there was a little bit of a generation stood still because we didn't have these tours. And these Lions tours and Lions get-togethers and Lions matches are so important for the development of young players to bridge a gap between first class and international cricket. So to see the players that are now making our way, and fair play, they've been rewarded for what they've done in the Blast and in the 100. Yes, I'm praising the 100 because I had a few arguments this week, Manners, about the 100. But you see Maudsley, the way he's played in the 100. I commentated a few times on the Durham games when Hull played at Leicester, and I sent Keezy a message going, this kid is special. He's 6'8", 6'9". He's got skills. He's got a bit of pace. I mean, he can't possibly. I was like looking at him, I'm thinking he can't possibly bowl no balls with the size feet he's got. And I mean, it was a breath of fresh air to watch these lads play and then go through the system, which would be the 100 system, which is the next rung up, which is a good level of cricket. So to get them into the full internationals, let's see what they're made of, and fingers crossed up to that Triscothic and Buttler to manage a group to go through the next phase of England white ball cricket, because we've got a lot to live up to. If that is the end for Bairstow, if that is the end for Jordan, if that is the end for Wokes, Moeen Ali, I mean, they're World Cup winners. They are special, talented people. They have done English cricket an unbelievable service over the last 8 years in white ball cricket. So these lads have got a lot to live up to, and it's important that they hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think that decision to hand out 29 central contracts is coming home to roost now. Harry Brook, Ben Duckett, Matthew Potts, Jamie Smith and Josh Hull, all in the new look ODI side as well. Just a word about Michael Yardy, Harmy. You want an age group coach, an under-19 coach, who can imbue a sense of perspective in the young players. And this didn't apply to you because you sort of got swept along inadvertently on the roller coaster of international cricket. It didn't. You weren't obsessed with it in the way that some young men are, you know. And if you're 18, 19, all your dreams and hopes and aspirations are centered towards becoming an international cricketer and playing for England, and you go through a poor trot, you can very quickly lose perspective and come despondent. And that's why I think Michael Yardy is an excellent choice. He's the kind of man who can put an arm around a young man's shoulders and say, listen, lad, you're healthy. It's okay. It's cricket. Just remember that. You'll come right.
Absolutely. And I think there's coaches out there, Manners, who I don't think fit franchise system. I really don't. And I mean, two very, very close friends of mine, both worked at Durham. One's the England bowling coach, one's a Durham bowling coach, and Graham Onions and Neil Killeen. I mean, I'd give them jobs for life with players to make them better, to give them, give them the help that they need from making mistakes. Under 19s, Lions coaches, future bowlers getting into the England team, not so much when they get there, because of their coaching skills as people. And I think I had a conversation with Ben Stokes before one of the Durham 50 over games about Graham Onions. And he was like, Bunny's made a huge amount of difference here. Ryan Campbell said Graham Onions made a huge amount of difference here with the young players, because the young players, Manners, that come into the dressing room at 18, 19, 20, they're like, it's like you've got the clown in the corner who likes to buck the system, and dressing rooms are like a flock of sheep. And it's not fashionable to work hard. It's not fashionable to work hard. I'm who I am and what I do and everything like that. The thing is, it's not fashionable to work hard. Ben Stokes says the biggest thing that Graham Onions has brought to this group is making sure that the young bowler works hard. He challenges them to work hard. Neil Killeen did it for years at Durham, challenging the young bowler to work hard. So you got like Sir Bryden Carson, people, other young Matt Potts, all these young bowlers that have come through Durham's system through Neil Killeen. Come through, they've worked their socks off because he's made sure that it is fashionable to work hard, and that's what you have to do. And like I said, some people from a franchise, Darren Goff's a perfect franchise fast bowling coach. Go in there with a group of people, chuck on his personality. I wouldn't say he's a huge technical coach in Goffey, but the personality is larger than life, fits the financial. Financial, it is financial, but the franchise world. Where somebody like a Killeen or an Onions will make bowlers better from a younger age going through. And I think that's the difference of, you're talking about Michael Yardy. They're so valuable to English cricket. They're more valuable than some of the coaches higher up the chain, even to the point at the top, because they only get to the top if you've worked enough at the bottom to make sure your standards are high and you deliver your skills on a consistent basis. I think that's what the 19s and the young Lions are doing, which is great.
I think you made a new word, financial. The story of franchise finances. We'll go with financial. We're going to talk about the schedule in this section, but we've run out of time. So we'll do that starting, obviously, with the gaping hole for the 16.4 in August once again. We'll do that in part 2. And a reminder, you can hear updates of the second test between England and Sri Lanka on talkSPORT from Thursday morning. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Next up, as well as next summer's schedule, we'll look ahead to the week's second test between England and Sri Lanka at Lords as the hosts suffer more injury problems. Before we come on to the second test match, let's just talk about the schedule, as I mentioned, Harmy. And once again, August has been left clear for the 100. And I couldn't help, and this may sound like a cheap shot, and I don't mean it to be, because I've got the greatest of respect for Richard Thompson, the ECB chair, and I know that he's got a very difficult job. But this is what he said last summer. Those hard, dusty wickets in late August and September are part of the nuance of Test cricket. Finishing the Test season in July means the whole season feels truncated. The Test summer absolutely will not be squeezed like this in future. Oh dear, that didn't age well, did it?
Oh dear. Oh dearie me. I was going to say something about Bumble because I've been with him all week and he was on top form, but I think this is a headline that I'm not sure Richard Thompson's going to get away from. I don't mind. I mean, as much as I struggle with 100 and I've had many arguments this week, especially one with my former captain, Michael Vaughan, that we've talked about pros and cons of what the 100 is. I don't mind August really being set off for a tournament, which is a showcase tournament that the ECB can throw their sort of shout from the rooftop, market it like you not believe. But the 100's not good enough for it. I mean, to take a month out of the calendar, I'll take a month out of the calendar, not a problem at all for an IPL or what the SA20 is starting to become, but not for the 100. I mean, nobody understands it. I've not seen many good games, not many really close games where, I mean, not just petered out. I'm struggling for team players and supporters to have an allegiance for one team. Yes, it's bringing in a new audience. That's great. I've got no problem with that, and it's fantastic. From that, it's not redirecting it in a certain way, which is, the blast before it in first-class cricket around 12 months. 100 is being marketed as a month tournament with a fortnight, 3-week build-up in between. Before it, marketing it like you'd not believe. So that, I think, another thing from the 100 point of view, and I'm bum me high horse and on my soapbox again, you mentioned Richard Thompson's quote there. How on earth can two men at the top of English cricket, in Richard Thompson and Richard Gould, sell the 100 when they've been on record, fair enough, not working for the ECB, they've been on record saying we don't like it. So how can you get somebody to sell a business they don't like, or somebody sell a product they don't like? What business sense is that? So I think it needs. There's a huge amount of conversations to where they get to on that front. To take another month out of the season, I would have no issue whatsoever in an 8-team, 10-team, 2020 tournament played with razzmatazz and glitz around the world, bringing the best players in. No problem whatsoever at disrupting first class in every part of cricket in this country. But I'm sorry, the 100's not good enough. And I think that, for me, is what I look at this 2025 schedule. And it still frustrates a lot of people in this country who love the game of cricket.
A really interesting conversation I had with a couple of South African players who played last summer in the 100 who aren't there this year. They swore me to secrecy, wasn't they? I was trying to interview them and they said they didn't want to upset anybody or ruffle any feathers. But they said apart from the format that was really hard, they found really hard to adjust to, they said that the hardest thing was being in a changing room with England players who didn't belong there in the home change. So as an overseas player, they found it really hard that the home players in their franchise team, they were in effectively the away dressing room and they didn't know their way around particularly. And, it's like you were like the vast majority, not just of overseas players, but of the home players were all playing away. And they said it just didn't work, I mean, in the environment of the context of a 150-year county scene, they just said that franchise just felt really weird. And that's not the only reason that they're not there. But anyway, it was a very, very interesting perspective and conversation. We let's not get into it because you've had a bad week of 100 by the sounds of things. Let's
absolutely bad week of 100 things. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about then the second test. I'm fascinated by Josh Hull's call up, and I know I'm not the only one. I don't care about the figures. What are they again? He's taken 15 wickets at 60.
He's averaged 62
in 9 games. So do you remember, in days gone by, rugby, the game of rugby union, was known as a game for all shapes and sizes. And that's no longer the case now. Basically, if you don't weigh 100 kilos in any position, then you've almost got no chance. It's size defined now. And I sort of wonder, I mean, on the one hand, Harmy, it's good that England don't choose the next cab off the rank by who's top of the county averages, because, you know, international cricket, as you and I have discussed, is different to first-class cricket. But you do sort of get an increasing sense that Brendan McCullum and whoever else, Rob Key and Josh Buckley, they have this physical specimen in mind to fill. I mean, Josh Hull, you know, good on him. I mean, he did a terrific job in the One Day Cup last year for Leicestershire, didn't they, when they won it?
Yeah.
But it does seem that being 6'8" has substantially helped his fast forwarding.
Yeah, it has, and I mean, I look at and I agree with you. I don't think these selectors do look at county championship averages. I think got bygone days. It's like who scored the most runs, who gets to 1,000 runs at the end of May. You know, where's, you know, they're in the team. You know, if somebody has a bad run of form, they're out the team. Who's got the next most runs? Well, we picked him because he's the most in form. We talk about matchups a lot in cricket, especially in the shortest format of the cricket. I think there's a matchup in Test cricket where I think your release point, I think your pace, and the length you bowl, I think are more important than the other numbers as such. So, I mean, just for an example, I sat there, first time I seen Josh Hull live, I heard about him, I'd heard about him and watched him off a TV, off a stream. But he played for Leicester against Durham. And I was intrigued. So I went and watched him practice. And I quite like this kid. He's a big lad. He runs in nicely. He holds his action. You know, for a big fella who is still body developing, he holds his action, you know, and he will get more consistent once he bowls. And I looked at him and thought, yeah, this is like Reece Topley, left arm option, tall release point, can swing the ball. Let's see what he's like in the game. And when he played, I was like, this kid's an international cricketer. I wasn't sitting there commentating on a young man going, what's he average? What's his strike rate? How many wickets has he got? I'm going, he's bowled 4 overs, 2 at the start, 1 in the middle, 1 at the death. This kid's an international cricketer. My eyes, he's an international cricketer. I don't really care what he averages. But when I watched him for the first time, this boy can play. Now, I would have played him at Lords, but I think they're going to play him at the Oval where it bounces that little bit more. And why I say it, I would have played him at Lords. The reason why I would have played him, anybody other than Mark Wood, I'd have played Josh Hull. But because Mark Wood's come out of the team, he's your point of difference. I look at this team and go, Chris Woakes, I know Woakes' pace is down a little bit. I think he might be carrying a little injury. You go 80 mile an hour. You go Potts, 85 mile an hour. Stone, 85 mile an hour. Atkinson, 87 mile an hour. I'm talking averages. I'm not talking about fastest ball. Because Potts will bowl a ball at 90 mile an hour. Stone will bowl a ball at 91, 92 mile an hour. And so will Gus. But they're all from the same height. They're all from the same trajectory. And they're all very, very similar in Potts, Stone, and Atkinson. Take Boxy out of it because he has to play because he's batted. But because you're playing an extra bowler and you have the security of playing 5 out-and-out bowlers, I'd have played Josh Hull at Lords. And I'm not just saying this because they haven't picked him and I'm a gob so-and-so that, likes to shout his mouth off. There's a reason why I would have played him, and that's my reason. So I think they will play him at the Oval. And I think once you see him play at the Oval, he would be a point of difference, like Mark Wood. Mark Wood's a point of difference. He's 10 mile an hour quicker on average than what you've got. So that's the point of difference. I mean, I look at England's attack at Lords and go, I mean, if it's flat and the ball's not doing anything, like it was at some parts of Old Trafford, I mean, if Bashir doesn't spin it, we've got 3 seamers who are bowling very, very similar. Release points, trajectory, and pace. I mean, you can see why some of the partnerships were built in that phase when the ball wasn't doing anything. And that's the reason that I played Josh Hull.
It was, as a final word in this section, fantastic to see Sri Lanka fighting back and putting up a really, really gutsy display. Good stuff from Angelo Matthews, who had some interesting things to say about the ball change, We can't get into that
just
at the moment, but there have been a number of test matches which have had their trajectory and course changed dramatically by replacement balls. Anyway, so well done to Kamindu Mendis and Dinesh Chandimal putting up such a good fight. And we hope for more of the same at Lord's. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with two-time county championship winner, Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll speak live to Derbyshire head of cricket, Mickey Arthur, after they secured their first red ball win at home in almost 5 years. And I'm delighted to say it's Mickey Arthur time. Been a while since we had you on, Mickey, Derbyshire head of cricket. I was discussing with Scott Taylor, our producer, about our reasons for inviting you back on, and it seemed slightly well, curious, bordering on morbid. The reason is that you've won your first home game for almost 5 years. But, you know, step by step, you always said that it wouldn't be a quick process. And, you know, there's only so much we can glean from looking at the stream of Derbyshire. And Harmy and I both have a soft spot for you and for Derbyshire. It does seem, and I could be misreading it, that you have been close. I mean, you've been very close and you're getting closer. And this is, I guess, the next step on the way. But, you know, you said that it would take time. You know that your processes and systems work. They've worked with half a dozen other teams, international teams. Are you making progress?
Yeah, we are. We're making a massive amount of progress, Manners. And I'll hasten to add that we haven't lost many games either. So what has happened is that the pitches at home have been pretty good, almost too good to get a result on. So, you know, we've tried different means, we've tried different methods, we've left a lot of grass on, and then if it's dry, it just bakes it and it becomes brilliant to bat on. Doesn't break up, doesn't turn. So the pitches have been outstanding here, which is allayed to the fact that we still basically trying to find a method. So since I've been here in 3 years, we've only lost twice at home, but we've only now won once. So, you know, we do play away at our different grounds at home. Chesterfield, we've won one, lost one on, you know, and drawn one. So it's not all doom and gloom from a kind of loss point of view. The fact is, we found a method now to win at home. And it's key that you find that method. We played on a hybrid wicket. It seemed to bounce a little bit more. It did a little bit early. Was a good toss to win, I'll hasten to add. But we did things right. We set tone like we've always wanted to do. We got big first inning scores. And then we had the ability to put the opposition under pressure. And as we know, 4-day cricket's a pressure game. If you can transfer the pressure out of your dressing room and into the visitor's dressing room, ultimately there's a breaking point. And if your breaking point's higher than the opposition's, you generally get the results you need. The other thing, just in terms, is we've got 10 new faces in our dressing room this year. So my first 2 years, we kind of looked at a squad, looked at what we wanted, looked at how we were going to take this squad forward to achieve what we want to, because we're a very ambitious county. You know, it didn't come here just to enjoy the Derbyshire Dales and English way of life. We came here to have success and to take a county that had struggled for success to maximize everything that we possibly could out of it. So I feel we're getting there. I feel we're a real team now. I feel we've signed well. It was a matter of gelling the team this season. We're a better white ball team at the minute than we are red ball team. But red ball cricket is very dear to me, and you know, I won't rest until we're in Division 1.
Yeah, Mickey, you mentioned you've got new faces and you've gelled well, but that win, how much will that sort of galvanise the group? In not only because of the first 5 years, but it wasn't somebody getting 250 or somebody getting 8 wickets, and it was just a one-man of victory. The whole team looked as though they were in on that victory. Zach Chapel got 6 in the first, fair enough, but I mean, everybody contributed to that win, which I think from a dressing room point of view, when you haven't won for so long, I know it's just getting the first one over the line, but boy, it must taste sweet when everybody's involved.
It does, Harmy, and good to see you as well. It really does. It does take sweet because it was a team effort. You know, Zach Chappell doesn't get the wickets he gets if we don't have somebody at the other end doing a really good job and continually building that pressure. Yeah, you know how that works. So yeah, look, it's a good team effort. As I've said to the guys, I mean, it's only one win. And, you know, the members, we all over the moon with that win because it means so much to eventually get the monkey off our back at home. But it is only one win, and as I said to Manners, we incredibly incredibly ambitious. We want to take this county forward, and we want to achieve sustainable success with it. Much like you did, you know, with Durham, and when you came in and you build a squad, you build a team. You create good values, you create a good environment, and ultimately the results then speak for themselves. The first 2 years I had here, Harmy, was getting everything in place, but was almost clearing out a dressing room to get a squad that I wanted. Every player now in that dressing room I've signed. And now I know this is year one in terms of where we want to be with the squad. So I couldn't be more happier, but I'm also realistic. There's a hell of a lot of work to do.
Well, your experience, Mickey, I mean, it's been a long journey now, and you are the most experienced international coach in the game's history. But I mean, going all the way back to, you know, South African domestic cricket and the systems and structures. You taught me so much about how a club needs to be built from the bottom up and have feeder systems and you know, I mean, it's like town planning, isn't it? I mean, it's a massive, massive job. Do you feel that those structures and systems that you have been so successful for you in the past are now in place?
Yeah, we're getting there, man. It's without a doubt, and it's taken a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I tell you, I'm very lucky though. I've got a board that backs me massively. An incredible chairman in Ian Morgan and an incredible CEO in Ryan Duckett who have let me come in and kind of take grab the cricket by the scruff of the neck and try and make it work. So I've had their backing, which has been fantastic. They've been superb, and I feel right from our talent pathway now, which is run by Darren Smith, you know, the former Natal or KwaZulu Natal player. We're starting to put some sustainable stuff in play. We're seeing the fruits. We've got this young boy Harry Moore, who's just come through our talent pathway. He's a gun. He is the best 17-year-old I have ever seen, bar none. And I did see Cameron Green come through as well. This guy is sensational. He's going to be very, very good. And we're starting to produce these young lads. Every year we've had 2 rookie contracts come through out of our players' pathway. The key to that sustainable success is getting your pathways right, getting your talent pool right, and I think we're getting there. I really do. I'm over them. I'm really excited because I'm loving this. I'm loving this project, and I'm loving what I think we can ultimately achieve.
Yeah, his name was mentioned to me about a year ago from Martin Speight, who he was at Sebra Schools, now at Repton, and he said, Harmy, this kid is unbelievable. And he brought through Harry Brook at Sebra. So, you know, I was like, really? And he was like, and his head was going to shake off when he was trying to sort of convince and nod me. So, you know, good luck to him. And yeah, I mean, man, as we talked to Mickey in the first part of the show about, you know, under 19s and development of Lions and making sure that that pathway to the England side is good, and every county has got to have the same one. I'm interested in, because I love the quick bowlers, as you know. Pat Brown, he's come another new face. You know, he didn't get he's not got the huge amount of wickets. That boy's got some talent. He's got some skills, and how is important to keep him on the red ball, white ball road to keeping him fit, because I see him having international honours in the future as well. Again.
Yeah, I certainly do. I absolutely adore this guy, Harmy. He's got massive heart. There's no frills or fuss with him. He gets in and does the job and works incredibly hard. Loves good, honest, straightforward communication which I love. So he's been brilliant. What we knew when we signed him was we knew he was a gun white ball bowler, and we signed him with a role in white ball cricket. He was our leading wicket taker in the Vitality Blast and did exceptionally well for us. But he knows white ball. His variations are good. His skills are good. What he's got back now is he's got his pace back, which has allowed him to come into our red ball side. He came to us wanting to play red ball cricket, and that was something that I really, really enjoyed as well, because so often those young boys, particularly a guy like Pat Brown, who's very proficient at white ball, wants to go off and go off into the franchise circuits and kind of make his name there. He wants to be the best red ball bowler he can be. He's only played 10 red ball games in his whole career. But this week, he bowled an 11-over spell in the second innings at express pace and was sensational. So I'm really hoping that this is the start of a really good red ball career for Pat Brown as well. He is a very, very good bowler.
Mickey, just finally, we'd like the Mickey Arthur's view of the wider world. First of all, England's schedule next summer has been announced, again, with August being left free for the 100. No change in the player in the domestic schedule as well. What are your views on player workload? There was talk about reducing the number of fixtures and maybe doing less than 4,000 miles a season on England's motorways. So just your brief thoughts on that, and also what's going on in Pakistan. They've been belted by Bangladesh by 10 wickets in a test match in Rawalpindi.
Yeah, let me answer the first one. The first one for man is, as you know, I'm a cricket chair. I love getting up every morning and knowing I'm going to the cricket ground. So I don't think we play enough. I'm only joking with that, of course. Look, the player workload is tough. The county season is tough. But I think that's a challenge for us as directors of cricket and coaches is to create a squad, a sustainable squad that you can rotate with, and you can almost put out equal teams every time you put them out, whilst you're resting and giving enough time to players to recuperate. The batters, when they're informed, they want to keep playing. The one thing that we have, and Homie, you'll resonate with this, is for the Durham boys, a trip all the way down south and then back to play at home and go back down south again or something like that is not ideal. For us, it's okay. We're in the middle of the country, so we don't do that 4,000 miles on the motorway. For us, it's a 40-minute trip to Leicester, or an hour trip to Northampton, or a 20-minute trip to Nottingham, or So for us, we don't share that. I guess the commute aspect. What we do share is the amount of cricket we're playing, and I know that we've had a smallish squad. And there are guys now that are being taped together just to wheel them out for this weekend. So look, it is tough. It is. I don't know what the solution is, to be brutally honest. We want to see competitions that are fair and have a huge amount of integrity. So you want to try and compete and play everybody. Look, I honestly don't know. I honestly can't answer that. What I do know though is I love it as a cricket tragic. I love there's no such thing as a county ground for me, because I'm at my happiest around the cricket ground. To get onto Pakistan, I was unbelievably disappointed to see that result. There's no ways Pakistan at home should be, and this is no disrespect to Bangladesh, because Bangladesh are a vastly improved team, but they're a vastly improved team generally at home. So Pakistan should be winning that. The resources Pakistan have, the players they have at their disposal, there's no ways they should be rolled over by a team, any team at home, as easily as they were.
And just finally from me, Mickey, I can resonate. Well, to be honest, when you're going to spend 5 hours on the bus, I mean, what's an hour? You might as well have another 6. You might be going all right at 500 in the card queue at the back of the bus. So you might want it to go around the block a little bit. So many times, or onto your sort of 8th or 9th can, and you've just opened a fresh one and thinking as you go past, oh, just keep going that little bit more. So, I mean, it is a county grind. That's the game, unfortunately, in cricket in England. It's not new. This is the thing that frustrates me a lot. Yes, I want us to play a better quality and I want us to have, but when, I have people talk to me about the Australian system, that's the Australian system. We've always had it that way. It's the English system and we always have it this way. You've probably got your longest trip. Are you off to the South Coast in Brighton? Deck chair, ice cream, just won your first game, back-to-back games. I mean, the challenges for the rest of the season, you've still got a few games left. Is it just the old cliche of, highest place you possibly can? Or do you think you can, bring a couple of youngsters in to give them some sort of sample size of what the big league is?
A little bit of both. I mean, and just to get back to your point you raised earlier, you're 100% right. This is the English game. And it's been like this all the time. And let me tell you, I've been in first-class crickets all around the world. The standard of county cricket is very, very good. It's not bad at all. So it's I think it's still a very good league. It's very desirable for overseas players to come and play. In terms of the remainder of the season, Hami, we were just pipped in both knockout phases in the white ball. We had a decent white ball campaign, albeit a little bit frustrating not to go through and get into quarterfinals. And now for us, it's just we found a method in first class cricket. I want us to keep improving because, as I've said to you, and I'll put this on record, in the next 2 or 3 years, Derbyshire is going to be playing in Division 1. We are that ambitious, and I will not rest until we are. So we've got to maintain what we're doing and maintain the good stuff. Get rid of the bad stuff. We'll strengthen our squad again now in the off season, and we'll go again next year. I am going to look to see, perhaps there's a debut for Harry Moore this week. I don't know. We'll see what the conditions are like down there. The poor boy's got to go to school as well, so we've got to balance that out.
I'll ring Spatey and see if we can get him off for a few days.
Yeah, no. Spatey's done a good job with him. So no, look, we're going to find that balance. And the balance for me is trying to continually move us forward, but also now to have a look at some younger players and see how good they are and see what we can get out of them for the following year.
Mickey Arthur, I know you've got another meeting to go to, but we're, as always, very grateful for your time, knowledge and insights, and very best of luck for the rest of the season. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, manners and pleasure, Harmy. Really good to see you guys, and don't be strangers. I'm free whenever you want me.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. You can now watch us on YouTube as well. If you're not already doing that, just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. Time now to hear from India's new assistant coach, Ryan Doeschate. Earlier on this week, I joined him for a chat about his new role, taking over a winning team and the challenges of what lies ahead. Ryan Doeschate, first of all, it would be remiss of me not to start with congratulations. Assistant coach of the Indian national team. I suppose only head coach is the bigger position in the world of cricket coaching. How are you enjoying the experience so far?
Hi, man. Thanks for the congratulations. I guess firstly, you only get congratulated in a coaching job when you actually do something. So I always find it a tough one when I'm congratulating people as well, and that's generally the reaction you get from coaches who have a vision to do well with the team. I mean, this one I found fantastic so far. I think the way coaching works at the moment, unless you're one of the big names in the game, it's almost who you align yourself with. And I've been lucky in terms of impressing Gauti with, how I go about things, and he's seen something there that he likes. But obviously very excited for the next cycle in Indian cricket and to build on the great work that the coaching staff and the current players have done in the last 18 months.
Gautam Gambhir tells a story. He's told it on a number of occasions now about his time at KKR, the Kolkata Knight Riders in the IPL, when you were one of the overseas players. And if I recall it, I haven't actually heard him tell the story, but I know that I've read about it. He tells the story that you were one of the overseas players at KKR, and there was a rash of injuries, and there were only 4 overseas players available for selection, and you were overlooked. And Gambia says that your reaction to that was what made you, in his eyes, one of the most selfless cricketers he's ever met. Was that a big thing at the time? Do you remember that match? Do you remember that moment?
I do, but I didn't see it as a big thing. I still don't, and I would be, gutted if anyone behaved any differently. It kind of reminds me of the Roy Keane quote, where someone praises him for what Alex Ferguson had said about him covering every blade of grass and fighting for every ball. And he says, "Well, what else is there to do? What are you praising me for? This is what I do." And I know it's to a far lesser degree, but I think it is important how you carry yourself around the group, and whether you're disappointed or whether you feel overlooked or even cheated in a way for not playing. To do anything less but give your best is just not acceptable. And I guess that's the starting point for him introducing the work that I do to that group, which was the Night Riders. But certainly know what I expect and what I intend to give every time I'm involved with the team.
There's a great deal of Indian pride, obviously, particularly having just won the T20 World Cup. And with you and Morné Morkel being appointed the bowling coach, you're ostensibly an assistant coach. I must ask you whether your main area of expertise is going to be batting or fielding, or is it all round? But there's a sense, isn't there, after you and Morkel were appointed, that I guess that some in the Indian establishment are saying, well, why aren't we sticking with Indian coaches?
Yeah, and I can see the point of view of that. I think if you look at it in 2 ways, you want the best guys coaching. And I'm absolutely not saying I'm the best guy to coach. But I guess with Gauty's vision and him taking over, he's looking to fill pieces of the puzzle that he thinks are going to bring the best out of this team. I don't subscribe to boundaries myself. So to say an Australian is better than an Indian, is better than a South African, is better than a Nepalese coach is just ludicrous. It makes no sense. But at the same time, I do understand the things that being an Indian national brings. You understand the pride, you understand the hardships that those guys go through to get there. The language thing is a big thing as well, although most of the meetings are conducted in English. Your relationships with the players are a lot easier if you're there all the time. So there are some merits for having locally based coaches, I beg your pardon. But certainly to be binary and say that a non-Indian cannot do as good a job or cannot do the job that they envision for you to do is nonsensical.
Your own record, Tendo, is incredibly impressive. I mean, a double championship winner. You averaged 64 in World Cups, 200 first-class games, 11,000 runs, etc., etc. And you've played T20 franchise cricket in 6 different countries. So it would be very hard for anybody to seriously question your credentials, and you've got coaching under your belt. Morné's appointment is, I think, regarded as far more left field, and he's only 39. I mean, you're only 44 years young. But how do you think Morné's taken to? You've obviously spoken to him. Do you think he's under more pressure than you?
He certainly hasn't portrayed that in any external way. If anything, I think in terms of credentials and certainly what they're looking for, and some of the pushback has been that I haven't played Test cricket. And I get that. And, you've read out those stats, but again, in context and in comparison to the job we're being asked to do, it's international cricket at the highest level. So if anyone's more qualified in terms of going through that experience, it'll be Morné. You know him as a guy, I know him as a guy. He's not going to be phased. I think if you go into jobs like this, being worried about what everyone's saying on Twitter and Instagram, and even the pushback you're going to get from within the organization, everyone's going to have an opinion. You can't go into these sort of jobs. You can't be timid. You can't worry about what people are saying. So certainly in my conversations with Morné, he feels much the same as I do. We've been given this opportunity. We have a vision of how to get the best out of these guys. We know what's important to the team, the direction the team's going, and we're just going to give it our absolutely everything for as long as it lasts.
I sometimes wonder in a position like this where the coach is the wrong word. Gary Kirsten tells a great story, doesn't he? And when he became head coach of India, he went to Sachin Tendulkar and said, "What do you want from me?" And Tendulkar said, "I want you to be my friend." I mean, you're working with the best players in the world. So how do you see your role as coach?
It's very tough to define in such a short or concise way. And you're absolutely right. I don't know if you saw the article on Cricket Info a couple of weeks ago. It's Alex Gardner. Again, he referred to the Shane Warne saying a coach is something that gets you to the ground. And certainly my experience, having played for 20 years and now moving into coaching, that is my perception, is that guys do not want a lot of technical knowledge. They do not want a lot of tactical stuff. They want you to be someone they can talk to, someone they can be really open with. They want the odd bit of guidance in terms of structure. They want good plans in place. They want you to understand their level of risk. It's all those sort of what the Americans term soft skills. It's the non-cricketing skills that are more important. At the end of the day, again, what you're putting out in terms of tactics and batting templates, in terms of training programs, you're not going to hit the nail for everyone. Everyone's very different, and cricket's been allowed to explore in that way, and guys do prepare differently, and guys want different things. So I think that side of it is becoming more important. And that's something that I'm trying to upskill on all those things I've just mentioned. I think are going to be very important in the future of coaching.
All that time that you and Mornay spent in the IPL will be very important in understanding Indian values, culture, and society.
Yeah, you spot on. I just had a brief glimpse of it in Sri Lanka a couple of weeks ago. Thankfully, I walked into a team that's very well led. Rhodes certainly takes the reins in the ODI thing, and I'm sure it'll be the same in the Test squad. And Surya, again, someone who I was lucky enough to play with the KKR, so at least we have a footing of a relationship to work from. But again, such a strong leader, how he went in and really wanted to do that job, taking charge of the team. And then the informal leaders, they're also fantastic. You've obviously got Virat, who speaks very well, who again takes charge, understands the depth and importance of Indian cricket and where it's going. Hardik Pandya was obviously overlooked for the captaincy. You got Shubman Gill. You got a lot of guys who captain their franchises. And certainly from what I saw in that brief snippet was you got guys who understand where they want to take this team and what it takes to get there, which is really comforting as a coach coming into a new environment.
And you were still going strong after 20 years, you into your 40s at Essex. As I said, a couple of championship wins. And then you finally retired from international cricket and first-class cricket. And then a few months later, you were batting coach at Kent, and then you've had a couple of international consultancies. I just wondered whether you ever considered sort of taking a year off, like playing some golf, walking the dogs. And you've got a young family, you've got twin boys. Your work rate's phenomenal.
I don't want to talk too much about me, but that's one thing I've always prided myself on. I want to work harder than anyone else. And I think that's the easiest way to gain respect and trust from players. If you can show them that you're going to do absolutely anything for them, you can ask them to run through doors for you on the field, on the fifth day of a test match, when it's 35 degrees in Australia. If you're not putting the work in, if you're not doing the things that they need all the time, I don't think you can expect them to do that. So I guess that's the first point or the first answer to that question. I genuinely love coaching, man. I would do it out of choice, and even on holiday, if a kid asked me, "Oh, please come down to the nets and throw a few balls," I really love it. So I haven't felt the need for a break. Again, we're very lucky in the setups I've been in, especially with the Night Riders and now with India. The hands-on work that other people do is just at a different level. So for instance, we have 3 throwers in India, 3 slingers. So it's not very often that you're actually doing loads and loads of physical work. You might throw for an hour in a training session. You might hit a few catches. So the physical side hasn't been overly taxing. And fingers crossed at the moment, everything's running well, and I'm really enjoying the hands-on work.
I know your time's very valuable, so and I've taken a lot of it already. Was Gautam Gambhir very specific about what he wanted from you, what his requirement was from you, or did he just want you around to contribute wherever the players wanted you to contribute. And also, what are you looking forward to? I mean, you mentioned Australia there. Obviously, there's a massive test series coming up, India in Australia. So what excites you about the next sort of short term, medium term, even long term?
Okay. In terms of the role, the way he set it up is that there are three assistants, so myself, Abhishek, and Moeen. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Moeen's speciality is bowling. I hope he never says anything about batting in any in any situation. I can't see where he's going to come in and speak on batting. But certainly, me and Abby, he wants us to be involved across all three facets of the game. Fielding was my sort of coaching forte before I've taken this role. And obviously Gati's a batter as well. So I feel like with three batting coaches there essentially, and one bowling coach, are we just going to have to help out with bits and pieces of all things? And like I said in the first question, I don't think much of what we're going to bring is technical knowledge to these guys. So in a sense, it's more about mindset, about situational awareness, how we think they can control certain phases of the game, just throwing ideas out there. And obviously debriefing, and keeping the mental space really good is going to be important. I think that's how Gati certainly sees me around the place, the energy I bring and the work ethic to show to the players, what we expect from them as well. What excites me, it's a great time to take over. It's a little bit daunting on the back of a World Cup win. How well they've done, winning twice in Australia the last two times. I guess one of the challenges that I wasn't expecting and I kind of overlooked is the playing of spin of Indian bowlers. We got undone in Sri Lanka, and I think the mindset of the Indians has been such that they are so desperate to do well overseas. And I think the focus has moved to doing well in Australia, doing well in England, and we've kind of let playing spin, which was always the strength of the Indian team, fall back a little bit. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to, helping get to that position where Indians are the best players of spin in the world again. Just in terms of, again, what we're looking forward to, qualifying for the World Test Championship, there's a great opportunity with 10 tests left, 5 tests now in India, 3 against New Zealand and 2 against Bangladesh, which are going to be important. Then going to Australia is going to be great. The Champions Trophy, medium term as well, with only 3 ODIs to go in the prep phase, which is going to be really challenging to switch between the formats and get the team ready for that. Again, something they're desperate to win. And then in the next cycle, after the next World Test Championship cycle, the tour to England is going to be fantastic, and then prepping the team for the T20 World Cup. So in terms of timing, yes, quite difficult to walk into a team that's just come back with the World Cup. But in terms of the schedule, what's ahead for the next 18 months is mouth-watering as a coach. It's all the series you want to be involved in, all the challenges you want to come up against.
Tendo, maybe a bit harsh on Mornay there, because I think he, above anybody else I've ever seen in the last 30 years, has absolutely mastered the art of how not to play spin. So if you ever need assistance there, he's the man to go to. How not to play spin.
Yeah, you're right. And you know how enthusiastic Mornay is. I'm sure he'll bring a lot of lightheartedness to it. And in this, the short space, I can see what those players are up against in terms of pressure, in terms of scrutiny, in terms of privacy. So being lighthearted and being positive is going to be a big part of taking that team forward.
Ryan ten Doeschate, thanks so much for your time. Very, very best of luck. We'll be following you extremely closely. And walk the dogs, play some golf.
Will do. Cheers, man. It's always nice to talk.
This Indian assistant coach, Ryan ten Doeschate, former Essex captain. Yep, that's him. You can watch the full interview on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. And it's fascinating, as always, with Tendo. All right, moving on, Harmy, we've got a lot to rattle through here. England have named their squad for the Women's T20 World Cup in the UAE in October, with maiden call-ups for Bess Heath, Freya Kemp and Danny Gibson. Kate Cross, Tammy Beaumont and Lauren Winfield-Hill miss out as England look to start a new era in the women's game. But Cross will captain the team in a white ball series in Ireland at the start of September. They will face Bangladesh, South Africa, Scotland and the West Indies in Group B. That's in Sharjah in Dubai now, after the tournament was moved from Bangladesh. On to the England's next Test series after the Sri Lanka one. Still got 2 games to play. 3 tests in Pakistan, Harmy. We're used to seeing a little bit of bargaining taking place for television rights. There's been a few sort of shock horror stories about the fact that it's at this stage not going to be shown on television in England, but the Pakistan Cricket Board are going to take whatever they're offered, basically, aren't they? It'll be on TV.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be on TV. It's always a delicate one because obviously the bilateral series money that's in that, and I'm sure Test cricket's going to be coming up so many times in the next ICC meetings going forward and what we're going to do with it. It's important that it is shown. So I'm sure one of the broadcasters will get an interest in that Pakistan Test series with Bangladesh is on TNT. So, and do you know what? I hope it's on Sky. I know I've had me sort of dealings with Sky, but I hope it's on Sky for the simple fact that the last time it was on Sky, it was the first tour from Pakistan, from an England tour since 2005. There was a lot meant of it. Nasser Hussain, Mike Arthur went out there, and I thought they covered it absolutely brilliantly. I really did. I give Nasser loads and loads of stick. I love the bloke to bits. That's why I give him some stick. I thought him and Ath, during that time of being out there, along with the sort of camera and the producer and everything, I thought they really put a good light on Pakistan cricket. And I know we've had a bit of a shocker recently, but I thought if they were working for the Pakistani Tourist Board, they couldn't have done a better job. So as much as TNT are in the frame as well, I'd love to think Sky would go and get it again, because I thought last time, because of what it means, Pakistan being out of touring for so long over there, but they did a brilliant job, and I hope they do it again. But we'll see. Money talks, doesn't
it? Yeah, in any language, Harmy, in any language. Okay, let's move on to a couple of interesting stories that have caught my eye. The first Test match between Sri Lanka and New Zealand in September is in Galle, and it will feature a rest day. Now, Harmy, I think the majority of our younger listeners and viewers might think, what's that? So just a little bit of a history lesson. In the decades gone by, or maybe centuries, when England played Australia, they're obviously Christian countries, and their Test matches began on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday being a day of rest. They didn't play, and so they allowed the players to go to church. I don't know how many did, but that's the history of the rest day in Test matches. And I'm very embarrassed to admit, Harmy, that the very beginning, I'm not embarrassed to admit at all. It comes as a bit of a shock, though. The very beginning of my journalism career coincided with rest days just before they were phased out. And funnily enough, I was in Colombo, also in Sri Lanka, and there was in 1993, and there was a rest day in the Test match, and I completely forgot about. It was scheduled. It wasn't even on a Sunday. I think it was on a Saturday, and it was a rest day just so that the players could rest, because Test matches had rest days. And it was a really weird. Anyway, I got into a tuk-tuk, forgot all about it. I said, SSC, please. And I arrived there, and the place was empty, deserted. I wondered whether there'd been some kind of nuclear disaster. I just couldn't believe it. I was in total and absolute shock. Anyway, they were phased out shortly after that. Didn't coincide with your career, did they?
No, it didn't. But I think the likes of Surrey and Botham's era, they drank a lot of holy wine on that Christian Sunday, and it come to it. So I would imagine the boys enjoyed themselves. I'm not sure it would have been a good act. Can you imagine Duncan Fletcher's face when it says, "Oh, you've got a rest here"? How on earth are you going to get Harmison and Flintoff out of pub on a Saturday night? So yeah, I think obviously it was just before my time. So I think in first class cricket they had that as well, didn't it? They didn't have a rest day. They had a Sunday League.
Yes,
you played. Neil February told us a story once. They played a first class match at Old Trafford, the Sunday League game at Canterbury. So they played the Friday, Saturday first class game, went down to Canterbury on the Saturday night, played the Sunday League game, and come back on the Monday to Old Trafford to finish it off. So when the players think they've got it bad now, just think back what it was like then. I don't ever want to go back to it's my day, but I mean some of the scheduling was shocking. So, think themselves lucky now what it's like with their luxury buses and not having to go and play 2 games in or 2 different types of games in the space of 4 days.
Yeah, I must say, Harmy, that I remember those days. I was working in county cricket, and I have to say that the John Player League, was it still the John Player League back then?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I do recall that, you know, that there were players who didn't take the Sunday game entirely as seriously as they did the county game, and they would still have a big Sunday lunch. And they were sometimes not the best for wear after the night before, and it wasn't quite the active game that it is these days. 40 over cricket. Okay, a couple of other. Oh, by the way, that rest day in Gaul is because of presidential elections, so the players will get a rest, but it's not for rest's sake. It's so that they don't get in the way of voting in Sri Lanka. Big surprise here, Harmy. The pitches in New York and Tarouba in Trinidad were rated as unsatisfactory. That took a while. T20 World Cup pitches, those ones in New York, you had a thought or two about those, didn't you? So that's no big surprise there. And bugbear, I don't know whether you've got a final word or whether you'll just take mine, Harmy. This is my final word, and it's a bugbear. And it's that T20 players who say, we can always catch up. We can always catch up, and they happily let the asking rate move out to 12, 14, 15, 16, and it's a very high risk, not often very high reward tactic. And South Africa have been absolutely cleaned up in the T20 series by the West Indies in the first 2 games. Do you know what? I really enjoy Rassie van der Dussen, and I don't know whether you've met him or whether you know. You would really enjoy him as well, because he's one of those blokes who's got a theory about everything, and as long as you agree with him, then you'll get on fine. Yeah. But the South Africa made a flying start in the second game, and he came out saying, "Just calm down, everyone, just breathe. We can always catch up." And then you get out for 17 off 24 balls without hitting a boundary. The asking rate was 9 when you came in, and it's 14 when you're out, and you end up losing by 30 runs. And he's 35 years old now. You would think there's been a few in English cricket, I must say. I know that you'll be thinking of a few already. Guys who just say, just calm down. Well,
I'm all right, Jack. That's the thing to me. I'm all right, Jack. That's how the Jeffrey boycott. I mean, role play of cricket innings. But the one last word I would say is like the Jeffrey boycott of cricket innings. Ian Bestwick got not out of 137 balls. Was it Mikel over CC? I think they got a mammoth total. I think somebody got a double 100. So the opposition decided we're going to block the hands off this. 45 overs, 21 for 4. The cricket is for everybody, not just a 100 competition, not just a franchise cricket competition, but Ian Bestwick, wow, what an innings that was. Not out of 137 balls. Sure, you've got an edge one for 4. I mean, even me and Huggy used to edge one for 4 every now and again. So, good on him. The outfield must have been longer than Old Trafford this week for not to edge to get it to the other end. But hey, that is concentration. That matters.
That's fabulous, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. Sunil Gavaskar, which World Cup was it? 1979, wasn't it? When he blocked it out, made 40 off 180 balls in protest at Australia, I think it was, who'd made 300. Anyway, yeah, great stuff. That's the final word from Harmy. You've been good one. You've been listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And if you've missed any of the show and you want to catch up, download the podcast from the Following On feed. We'll be back at a similar time next week, but earlier actually, probably, to look back at the second test between England and Sri Lanka. But for now, this has been another edition Following On.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.